Hi, my name is David Kolakowski. I have been a CPA, CFO, CEO, coach, and consultant helping companies and individuals manage their cash and improving their financial situation. Today I'm going to show you an easy way to establish and maintain a personal budget using this Excel template. Doing it weekly is key because if you're paid bi-weekly, but expenses are due on a specific day of the month, budgeting by month can be very difficult. Let's go through this spreadsheet together to see how simple it can be. And at the end of this video, you'll find a link to download this template and begin your journey toward greater financial freedom. So let's get started. This template is organized with each week in a separate column, and the date in each column represents the start of that week beginning on a Sunday. Start with entering the date of the first Sunday to start your budget in cell D2. At the top in row 3, you'll see the starting cash balance. We'll enter an initial cash balance of $1,000. The first section is for income, where you'll enter all the money you expect to receive. Start with the monthly recurring income such as rental payments or alimony. Enter the amount in column C and the expected day of the month for receipt in column B. Here we will enter $500 with the date of the first. Next, there are 2 payroll rows allowing for up to 2 income earners using the same spreadsheet. For each payroll, select the frequency, whether it's weekly, bi-weekly, monthly, or semi-monthly. We'll select bi-weekly for both payrolls. In column B, indicate when the bi-weekly payroll period will start based on the start date entered in the cell D2. If you're paid in the first week, choose start in week 1. Otherwise, choose start in week 2. But if you select monthly or semi-monthly payroll, you don't need to make this choice, as the system will automatically calculate your payroll for the first of the month and the 15th for semi-monthly. In column C, enter the net amount of your income, which is the amount after taxes, and this should match your payroll deposit. For this example, we're going to enter $2,200 for the first payroll and $1,000 for the second payroll. Notice how the spreadsheet automatically places the income in the correct cells for the weeks based on your selections in columns A, B, and C. To simplify the process, you only need to enter information in all the blue cells. However, you can overwrite any number in any column or cell to reflect the actual amount received or incurred, or expected to be received or expected to be incurred. Next, if you run a retail shop or e-commerce storefront with consistent income, enter the expected weekly income in column D, and the amounts will automatically populate the rest of the columns for each week. For this example, we're going to leave these blank. Line 12 then displays the total income for each week. Now let's move on to expenses. The expense section is divided into monthly bills and weekly expenses. For monthly expenses, enter the amount and the day of the month they are due. For example, rent might be $600 due on the 1st, while a mortgage could be $24.75 due on the 6th. Similarly, you'll define your credit card payments and utilities the same way. Let's add a Chase credit card with a $500 payment due on the 15th and a Capital One card with a $500 payment due on the 1st. Then we have our electric bill of $90 due on the 10th, natural gas at $75 due on the 28th, internet due on the 7th, and your cell phone bill will be due on the 16th. Notice how the system automatically allocates these expenses to the appropriate weeks. You can add payroll as an expense if you employ a domestic worker for landscaping, housekeeping, cleaning, or other maintenance. Here, you'll enter the gross amount of the pay, and it functions just like the payroll rows above, where you select the frequency and the week it starts. We'll choose bi-weekly, $175, and starting in week 2. Next, we have the weekly expenses. Whatever values you enter into column C will be automatically applied to every column for each week. For a family of 2, this might include $175 per week for groceries, $130 per week for gas, and so on. You can also include expenses for lunches, dinners outside of groceries, weekly entertainment, kids' allowances, and any miscellaneous cost. The last row in the expense section is for quarterly taxes if you need to make estimated payments. Simply enter the amount in column C and it will be automatically placed in the appropriate column for each quarter. Now you see we have the total income for each week displayed in row 12, the total expenses for each week in row 39, and the net cash at the end of each week in row 41, before factoring in any borrowing or savings activities. Budgeting for savings, even a small amount, at least monthly, is a smart practice. For example, we've entered a savings transfer of $200 per month on the 7th and a $300 monthly transfer to the retirement or investment account on the 21st. Now the bottom row shows you the ending cash balance at the end of each week. Uh-oh. In column K, we see we have a negative cash balance. There are 2 ways to address this. First, you could borrow $462 on row 44 and repay it the following week when you get paid. Alternatively, you could just adjust your expenses by moving the savings amount or some expenses to the next week, skipping some dinners out or entertainment, and cutting back on miscellaneous expenses to cover the temporary shortfall. This is the beauty of this template. It gives you complete flexibility and foresight to plan for these little hiccups. As you see, this template is completely customizable, allowing you to add more rows to suit your specific needs. I hope you see how easy and flexible this template is and how it will help you budget your finances, take control of your cash flow, and potentially give you peace of mind. Again, if you want this cash flow template for yourself, click the link below this video or contact the person that sent you this link.